the tone of the meeting seeming very different from what we saw unfold in Parliament last week. Do you think there's been a genuine change of heart amongst the opposition parties?
Well, I think that we've had a history of the whips coming together and coming to some sense of agreement. What I think is at issue is the ability of the whips to control the conduct of members of their own parties once they're inside the chamber engaged in fairly heated debate. And one of the other things that I think Deputy President Ramaphosa reminded all of us of is that it is not necessarily the style within which one or with which one debates, but it is the substance of the debate. And so it is pointless if you simply have an antagonistic or insulting style and the point of your debate is to insult your opposition or your opposing, the opposing argument. The point of a debate is to come to a greater understanding of the issue, and therefore there has to be some sort of substance. And he's calling for a return to that substance is, I think, crucial. Whether or not we're going to see an improvement in the quality of debate inside Parliament as a result of this meeting remains to be seen, and that is entirely up to the relationship between whips and members before and during debates in Parliament, and also the commitment of members of Parliament to abide by not only the rules of Parliament but by instructions from their whips.
Angela, do you see this as some kind of attempt to pacify the opposition at all and to make them feel that their concerns are actually being addressed?
I don't know. This is something that I think the opposition parties could answer themselves. My sense is that it will not be possible, if that is the aim, for the majority party to do so. What may be important for the majority party's deputy leader to do at this point is to begin to build bridges, to argue again, and this might have to happen both in relation to opposition party members but also in relation to members of his own party, that the point of Parliament is argument not for its own sake, but in order for greater elucidation, greater understanding, and in order for the country's governance processes to work more efficiently. And in that sense, I think Cyril Ramaphosa has a task not just in relation to the chief whips, but in relation to his own party and its members of Parliament.
There was a lot of talk about the executive being held to account and people being given room to actually come and answer questions in Parliament. It sounded a lot there like he was talking about the president, at least that's part of the inference that can be drawn. Do you think that he is going to be collectively engaging with particularly the opposition to ensure that the environment or the climate is conducive to the president being there to answer questions?
That is possible. My sense of what this morning's events will do, or what their function is partly that it's public relations, partly it is in order to reassure South Africans that despite party divisions and party differences, members of Parliament are still elected officials who have to work for all citizens in the country, and the Deputy President taking a leadership role in order to try and show that that is what people need to return to. What I think must be borne in mind by all citizens is that there are constitutional requirements of the President to be accountable to the people through the Legislative Assembly, and therefore it's not a choice or a whim he can come or he cannot come. There are absolute requirements that mean he must be answerable to the Legislative Assembly, and through that answerability and accountability account to us as the people. Extra parliamentary accountability must go in addition to parliamentary accountability. The President cannot account to the people simply through imbizos or extra parliamentary meetings. He must also appear in Parliament. And that is, I think, a process that we must return to. And how we return to that is important, because while the opposition parties have every right to interrogate the President's responses, they must also give him the opportunity to respond. You cannot simply have the President appear in Parliament and be jeered every time he begins a sentence before he can finish it. That is indeed also unacceptable, because it does mean that we, the people, will never get to hear the President's responses. I can't imagine, given the internal dynamics for the African National Congress, that they're willing to sacrifice a senior official on the National Executive Council and somebody who, in the absence of both the President and the Deputy President, can become the acting President. Somebody who is a very senior official, not just in party but in government. It would bode ill, I think, for members inside the party should the ANC reverse a decision that it made quite convincingly through an absolute vote in Parliament just a few months ago. I also don't think that we must discount that much of what we're seeing is not just a dynamic inside government involving all parties in parliament, it's also a dynamic inside the African National Congress. As people bid for power, as we move towards the 2016 elections and their role in the 2019 general elections, I think we need to be quite aware that many of the dynamics we will see working itself out in public actually reflect back on dynamics inside the party out of which those officials come. Whether or not a motion of no confidence in the Speaker will succeed, I seriously doubt that the African National Congress will pull the rug out from under Baleka Mbete at this point.